So you're a brand new Pokemon trainer and you can think you can take on Brock? This guy is rock hard with his defense and attack. He can whittle your Pokemon down and he can take the punishment. Really, he's a force to be reckoned with. Oh, sorry, not that Brock. This one. In Generation 1, Brock is the first Pokemon gym leader using Rock-type Pokemon Geodude and Onix. Now, these Pokemon aren't great in the grand scheme of things, but their high defense and resistance to basic normal-type moves makes them a challenge for early game Pokemon to get through. This is even so much so that some legendary Pokemon won't be able to get through Brock with minimum battles. That's why we started this series to see which Pokemon can actually complete the game without extra training or extra battles. So last time we tried the first 15 Pokemon of Generation 1, starting with Bulbasaur and going up through Beedrill. Of those Pokemon, 9 were able to get through Brock on minimum battles. Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, Venusaur, Charmeleon, Charizard, Squirtle, Wartortle, Blastoise, and Butterfree. Man, that's a tongue twister. Well, today we're going to start off episode 2 by checking the next 16 Pokemon against Brock. Starting from Pidgey and going all the way up through Nidoqueen. Which Pokemon do you think will be able to get through Brock? There's a few that I think will be very interesting. Of course, the Pidgey line and Sandshrew line will get Sand Attack. And if Sand Attack is really as good as some of these online streamers say it is, then maybe we'll be able to whittle Brock down just by making him miss all of his attacks. We also have the Ekans and Arbok, which start with Wrap. Wrap is a very broken move in this generation because when you use Wrap, your opponent can't attack you. It can last up to 5 turns, and given that Geodude especially has low speed, they might be able to lock it in a Wrap loop and get through with no problems. Some of the other Pokemon here look like they just have to use brute force to get through. And Pikachu and Raichu you might write off immediately. Hey, they only have Thundershock. But we have a special wrinkle today that might allow us to get through Brock with minimum battles. So, let's check it out. So, today's challenge rules are, we can only use one Pokemon in battle, no items or glitches, but we will use a Game Shark to get max DVs on our Pokemon. This way we can ensure that our Pokemon will be the best version of themselves that they can be when we get to Brock. Finally, we will use a maximum of 10 attempts per trainer in order to get through. If we can't do it in 10 attempts, we're going to assume that this is a lost game. So, without further ado, let's get to our very first Pokemon. And today, let's start with Pidgey. So, let me get my Pidgey game loaded up here. Okay, and there we are. So, we are in Pokemon Yellow version today. There's a few reasons why we've chosen Pokemon Yellow version. In the case of Brock, of course, Brock has the same Pokemon, and they're actually at a lower level in Yellow version. So you might think that that would make him easier, right? Because, oh yeah, you just have to beat a level 10 Geodude and a level 12 Onix as opposed to a level 12 Geodude and a level 14 Onix. However, it's actually the opposite. It becomes more challenging in this game. One of the reasons why it's more challenging is because in this game, his Geodude doesn't know Defense Curl. So there's no chance of his Geodude messing up, basically, or using like a bad move against us. What that means is that some strategies that usually would work against him, for example, we just want to be able to, confuse him and then just hope to kind of luck our way through. Well, that's not going to really work as well because he'll never use Defense Curl when he should have used Tackle and basically waste a turn that way. And Tackle has fairly high accuracy, so it's not really a great situation for us. Anyway, let's look at our Pidgey here. So our Pidgey is not that great. but we're going to use the Game Shark in order to get maximum stats on this Pidgey. Now, the maximum stats will only show after we fight one battle and level up. So, let's start by battling our rival here, and hopefully we can get through him without too much trouble. Oh, that did not work out. So, we're going to have to make our first reset of the game right there. Pidgey lost to the rival one time. Hopefully it doesn't lose to the rival every time. Otherwise, we might have to use Sand Attack. We should have done that. But anyway, getting back to my point. In the case of Brock, his Geodude doesn't know Defense Curl, so it only uses Tackle every single move, which basically results in us getting hit, generally getting hit every single turn with a damage-dealing move. So some strategies that might involve kind of stalling out the Geodude don't really work here as well because we can't count on him to mess up, to make mistakes that would allow us to get extra turns. Then on top of that, his Onix knows Bind in this generation, and Bind, just like Wrap, basically locks the opponent into multiple turns of not being able to move, not being able to attack, and it's really terrible when you get locked in a bind loop. So if we can't outspeed the Onix, there's always the chance that even a good run could be ended right there. Anyway, let's try round 2 at our rival with this Pidgey, and yeah, let's Sand Attack him a little bit, so that hopefully he starts missing. There we go. And now we can see our Pidgey's leveled up, and it's got significantly higher stats with the maximum DVs. So this Pidgey is going to be much stronger when we get to Brock than it otherwise would have been. We saw before, like, its speed was not very good, its defense was not very good. Now those stats are really optimized to be exactly where they need to be. So basically, we just have to go through the game. In this playthrough, we've only got 3 Pokemon that we need to fight, basically. We fight the rival, Eevee, in Oak's Lab. We fight a level 10 Caterpie in Viridian Forest. And then we fight Brock himself with his Geodude and Onix. And in this case, like, the Viridian Forest is actually quite a bit more challenging in Yellow 2. Because in Red and Blue, the Viridian Forest Bugcatcher has a level 9, I believe, Weedle. Now, Weedle uses Poison Sting, which is not an incredibly strong attack, plus it's a lower level than in this version. You have to fight, instead, a level 10 Caterpie, using Tackle, which is more likely to affect a lot more Pokemon and have a lot more chance of actually doing damage. So sometimes when we get to this fight with a level 6 Pokemon, it can actually be a little bit of a challenge in order to get through the Caterpie at the end of the forest. So far, we've seen the best level that we've gotten to Brock with was level 8, when we're using a Pokemon that's in the medium-fast level group. If we're in a medium-slow, or sorry, that's the medium-slow level group, because they level up faster at the beginning of the game for whatever reason. So if we're using a Pokemon in the medium-slow group like Pidgey, we'd expect to get to level 8 off of this battle. Whereas if we're using a Pokemon that's in the medium-fast level group, as we saw, for example, the Butterfree and Beedrill, we were only getting to Brock at level 6. There just wasn't enough experience to get them to level up a second time in the forest. Finally, if we're looking at a Pokemon that's in, a slow level group, we may even have a situation where they don't really level up at all. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, we've reached Brock. Here's our Pidgey. We can see our stats. We have decent attack, we have good speed, defense and special are okay. But what we're really banking on here is that Sand Attack is going to get us through. Do you think we can do it? Let's find out. So let's go ahead and make a quick save state here. And let's just double check that my save state works. Okay, yes, perfect. So let's go ahead and fight Brock and find out, can we beat him within 10 attempts? So we're going to start off by using Sand Attack. We want to throw at least a few of these at him. Okay, So he should have really the minimum accuracy now. As we can see, we're just over about half of our available HP. And he's missing, which is good. Alright, and we're through the Geodude, and we've leveled up. He uses Bide, so we're just going to go ahead and use Sand Attack against him until he stops using Bide. Now, the big thing is that Bide cannot miss, so we really want to avoid hitting him as much as possible when he uses that. But now we've used all our Sand Attacks up, so we just don't even have a choice. We have to just sit here and try to hit him with Gust and hope that we can feint him. So now we really don't want him to use Bide. We want him to use attacks that don't do damage. So that was a pretty good run, but unfortunately we ended up failing. Let's go ahead and try round 2 against him. That was a really awesome Geodude run. So let's hope that we can repeat that same success again. This one's not going quite as well. This Geodude took us out. Okay. Let's try round 3 here. Now, there's not really a better strategy than sand attacking Geodude into missing as much as possible. As we saw, if we can do that, there's always a chance that we're able to get through without having to do any healing or anything. Okay, so we've made it to Onix a second time, and now we want to, again, sand attack him into Oblivion. Okay, and now we really have to hope that we can avoid damage, which we didn't. So, that's number 3 finished, so let's try attempt number 4. We really want this Geodude to miss as much as possible here. So, attempt number 4 fails. Let's try attempt number 5. We just have to sand attack it 6 times every time. And then try to break through. Let's see if we do slightly fewer sand attacks, if that influences things in any way. Let's do 4 sand attacks and see. Maybe by just starting our attacks earlier we can get through with a similar amount of HP. Okay, so again we're through. Okay, and that's what we want to see in the early part of battling him is... Okay, and when we see Bide, we want to go back to using Sand Attack. Okay, that was just a 2-turn Bide. Okay. We don't really like that. He's just using Bide again and again against us. That was a pretty good run, but we didn't get through. So, let's try attempt number 7 now. So, looked like even fewer sand attacks on the Geodude was basically okay, and then it just comes down to RNG. It's just, can we get the luck to get through him? That's not looking good. Okay. Like, we're never going to get his accuracy down to 0, so we really just have to hope that we can get through him a little bit better here. Oops. What am I doing? Oh, sorry, that's autopilot. I'm just sitting here using Sand Attack and wasting them against Geodude. Okay, well, we've definitely Sand Attacked him as much as we possibly could. And that didn't work out. Okay. Let's take attempt number 8 here. So, 1, 2, 3, 4 sand attacks. Let's try it. With 4 sand attacks, he should really only be hitting like 1/3 of the time once we hit him with 4 of them, I believe. 3, 4, 5, 6. It's really just a matter of luck. Like, this is always going to be a super luck-based strategy. But if Pidgey can get through, then we can almost automatically pass Pidgeot and Pidgeotto, given as they're going to use the exact same move, right? So we have 2 more attempts at him. Let's see what we can do. Okay, he's missing. That's good. We like to see the Geodude miss when it tries to hit us. We don't like to see these hits getting through. Okay, one last attempt with our Pidgey, and then we're going to have to pass on it to the next Pokemon. Okay, trying 5 sand attacks against it here. And now it's just about luck. Okay, so we got through. And we're through to the Onix now. We really want it to use anything but Bide against us. Okay. And now it's used Bide, and we don't have any way to avoid hitting it. So, there we have it. Pidgey, unfortunately, we're going to have to remove from the list. It just wasn't quite strong enough to be able to do what we wanted it to do. So, Pidgey, you're gone. Let's try the exact same challenge, but now let's try it with a Pidgeotto. If you recall correctly, J Rose 11 did this run with a Pidgeotto. Basically, when he did his Pokemon Yellow minimum battles, he added 1 extra battle that he had to do, which was to go ahead and catch a Pidgeotto in Viridian Forest, and then use that Pidgeotto in order to get through Brock. As we saw, even with Pidgey, it was almost possible to do it, so I would expect that Pidgeotto can do it. Now, within our challenge rules, however, it might be a little bit difficult, because in J Rose's case, he was using a Pidgeotto, but he may have done 20 attempts, 30 attempts, 50 attempts, some arbitrary number of attempts, whereas we have set our challenge rules to be at 10 attempts. If you can't do it in 10 attempts, it just takes too much luck in order to get through. Pidgey probably could have gotten through with super great RNG luck. So basically, we don't really want to rely on that. We want to have actual, this Pokemon is actually good enough to get through type of runs. So here, we're doing the same thing where we're going to give our Pidgeotto perfect DVs, so we're going to see it levels up and its stats go up quite a bit here, which is good. That is the best Pidgeotto that we can possibly have, so yeah, let's go ahead and run back through and find out if we can get through. So, the thing that I think will be the challenge here is just RNG, but if Pidgeotto is able to do a little bit more damage, keep in mind, its normal type attacks are stab, so it does get the 1.5 times attack boost here, even though the attacks are resisted, but it might be a case where it can do some critical hits and do like maybe 2 damage or 3 damage, as opposed to just doing 1 damage each time or something like that, which together with Sand Attack might make this a possible run. Now, of course, if we can get through with Pidgeotto, we're going to feel pretty good about getting through with Pidgeot, but then it's about, is Pidgeot able to get through even easier? Is it a case where Pidgeotto's really on the cusp? Because we could definitely see with Pidgey, it was just a little bit too weak to get through. It's just running out of PP before it can actually get through Brock, basically. So here, I think the trainer in the forest is going to be a piece of cake. Let's just throw a couple sand attacks at him and just gust him down. Perfect. So here we are, we're at level 8. This is one level lower than what we would catch a Pidgeotto at in the wild in this generation, but given that we have maxed out stats, we may be able to go ahead and get through without quite as much challenge here. So let's go ahead and save our state, and let's take our first attempt at Brock. So here in the beginning, we're going to go ahead and just start by sand attacking him. Here we'll use 6 just to see how that works. Sorry, I did 7. Didn't mean to do 7. We can see that when he does hit, he's doing similar amounts of damage. He's doing a little less. He's doing 5 now instead of 4. But round 1, we just weren't quite able to get through. So let's try it again. So it looks like in general he's doing 5 damage per hit, even though that first one did more. But it looks like we're going to be able to go ahead and power our way through. Perfect. We've leveled up. Now we just need to sand attack against Onix. That's not what we want to see, a critical hit bind. And now it's really just a matter of, okay, he used Bide, so let's try to avoid hitting him, but the rest of the time, when he doesn't use Bide, we really just want to try to take him out. Okay, and now we don't have any choice. We're down to just Gust, so if he keeps using Bide, we might get taken out, but no, we got through. So there we have it. Pidgeotto levels up to level 11. So just like in J. Rose's run, we were able to get through with the Pidgeotto, which is pretty good. Obviously, it means that we have our first Pokemon that we can say for today was able to make it through the game. Very nice. So let's go to our next Pokemon, which is going to be Pidgeot. And we're going to assume, of course, that if Pidgeotto was able to do it, Pidgeot's definitely going to be able to do this. This shouldn't really be much of a challenge, but it's always good to just check our results. Maybe that was the luckiest Pidgeotto run ever, and we might find out that, hey, we actually shouldn't have used our Pidgeotto there. It would be very, very funny to have a run where the max evolution of a Pokemon doesn't get through, even though a lower evolution does get through. We'll have to see if that's ever the case. It could be possible, because some Pokemon have really strange, learned movesets at the beginning of the game. In this case, for example, we can see that our Pidgeot automatically starts with Quick Attack, whereas our Pidgey and Pidgeotto did not start with Quick Attack. Obviously, that's because we could catch a wild Pidgeotto at a level lower than level 12, and because we could catch that Pidgeotto at a lower level, it creates the situation where, like, if it started automatically with a higher level move, we might be able to exploit that somehow. Anyway, so we can just go ahead and Quick Attack this Eevee down. That's absolutely a piece of cake. And we can see that our Pidgeot has much, much higher stats than the Pidgey and Pidgeotto had. So I expect this to really just be a matter of still RNG, but not so much RNG. Like, this is probably going to be a pretty consistent run, I think. Because, I mean, what's really going to stand in our way here, right? It's just get the Geodude to miss enough times that we can get through it, and then get decent luck against Onix, but we have actually even more PP in order to battle Onix because we have 2 attacking moves as opposed to 1, and because we have quick attack, we can guarantee to move first when we attack, so we can actually see whether or not he uses Bide before we choose our move, so we never have to do that where we choose to attack and then he uses Bide and then we end up hitting him and getting damage dealt back to us. So it's actually a pretty good moveset, I would say. That actually could end up being a benefit maybe for Raticate too later in the run, but anyway. The other benefit that some of these Pokemon have, especially these normal type Pokemon, are going to have is that they're actually going to have a stab move early in the game, which is pretty beneficial when you can actually get additional damage, because that might, even if it's not super effective against Brock, you know, it's still resisted. We could increase our damage output fairly significantly, I think, with these types of moves. Oh no! I did not mean to fight you, so we're gonna just Sand Attack until we die. Come on, don't do that. Oh my gosh, and we actually have to reset our game because of that. That was a mistake on my part, sorry guys. We'll just rush back through to get back to Brock, because as we can see, this is a super easy part of the run. So we need to look ahead to some of the other Pokemon that we're going to use, because each Pokemon, of course, is going to have its own, you know, situation when we're facing Brock. And definitely, I think that Sand Attack strats clearly will work against Brock. There's clearly already an advantage there. But there may be some Pokemon that not even Sand Attack, but other sorts of strategies might work. The biggest one that I'm looking at is the Ekans and Arbok Wrap strategies. If they can hit, keep in mind Wrap has low accuracy, but if it can hit enough times, they may be able to lock Geodude basically from being able to attack at all, because Geodude's quite slow. And what that means, of course, is that we can basically just lock it into repeatedly not moving by using Wrap, which should mean that getting to Onix is more consistent. But on the flip side, Onix might outspeed, and Onix might be using Bind to do the exact same thing to Ekans and Arbok. Especially because Ekans and Arbok, I don't think level up very quickly. I think they're in the medium fast group, which means that they are like the slowest level up group at the beginning of the game. So they likely will hit Brock still at level 6, as we saw with Beedrill and Butterfree last time. Where for Beedrill, it was really like it just didn't have the ability to do enough damage to get through. So this time we'll make sure to actually save our game so that we don't lose here to the bug catcher and then subsequently get locked into a fight with that junior trainer. That was just a mistake, but we'll avoid him this time. So here we are, perfect. We've made it past the junior trainer. Let's go ahead and save our game and take our first attempt here at Brock. So we're going full on Sand Attack strat to start. Okay. Now that we've gotten those off, we're just going to use Gust against Geodude. We already outspeed, so there's not really any point in using Quick Attack here. Okay, and we've gotten through. Now it looks like we just naturally outspeed Onix anyway. So we're going to keep as many sand attacks as we can for when he uses Bide. And otherwise, we're really just hoping that he misses his attacks as much as possible. And we can already see that this run's going pretty well. He's not really doing damage to us. He uses Bide, and we're able to knock him out. So Pidgeot is probably consistent with this run. Like, it probably takes almost no luck to get through. Like, we could have bad luck and get knocked out by Geodude, but otherwise we're basically fine in that battle. So that's pretty cool to see. So we've just finished our next Pokemon here, and Pidgeot and Pidgeotto are moving on. So the next Pokemon that we need to try is Rattata. And Rattata is definitely going to be interesting. I think basic Rattata is going to really struggle here, because it's just not going to have enough power to get through. Whereas Raticate might be able to get through if it has enough HP, and if it's able to get some critical hits. And it might start with better moves. It might start with, for example, Quick Attack, the same as Pidgeotto, or same as Pidgeot, rather. But it also might get an advantage in the sense of being able to... If it starts with Hyper Fang, it's just going to be super powerful. It's probably just going to go right through them. But I'm not sure if it starts with Hyper Fang or not. So here we are. We've got our Rattata in just a second here. And Rattata's definitely going to need to have like maxed out stats in order to get through this. One advantage that it does have is it's going to be able to use Tail Whip to lower the defense of our opponents. So we're going to go ahead and just start off by spamming. And that did not work. Hey. So we're going to have to go ahead and reset for the first time here, just on the rival. Same as Pidgey. And hopefully we can get a better roll here this time. So it's still going to be Ash. Like, it looks like the Eevee, we could have taken it out in 2 hits at that point, but it just decided to attack rather than using Tail Whip. So it's kind of a 50-50 shot here. These rival battles here in the Oaks Lab can really be a coin flip depending on the Pokemon. But, alright. Let's see. Attempt to, and we take it out. Perfect. There we go. We can see that our stats jumped quite a bit, given... Oh! Sorry about that. I pressed the wrong button. That's not what I wanted to press. We're just going to have to do it one more time. So, basically, there's one big concern that I have about Rattata, which is that it learns, typically, it learns Quick Attack at level 7, which could be beneficial against Brock. Now, what we found when we played as Bulbasaur before was that it leveled up to level 8 in Viridian Forest, meaning that it skipped learning Leech Seed, which it normally would learn at level 7, and that basically made that run impossible. If we didn't get Leech Seed, there was no way that we were going to beat the Geodude. This could be a similar but not identical situation where perhaps we need to be able to get Quick Attack in order to outspeed the Onix. So that one didn't work. We gotta do a reset there. Alright. It's clearly just a matter of luck to get through that battle. But here's where we have to see. Basically, when we get to Viridian Forest, will this Rattata level up to level 8, or will it level up to level 7 when we fight against the Bug Catcher? If it levels up to level 8, we may miss out on learning Quick Attack, and that might actually affect whether or not we can get through. At the same time, however, the only real benefit of Quick Attack would be being able to hit the Onix before it uses Vibe. So it could be very different from Bulbasaur, where Bulbasaur needed Leech Seed basically to heal up each turn, and it was basically using Leech Seed and Growl in combination to basically stall the opponent out. And that was the strategy in order to get through. Whereas Quick Attack doesn't really add anything other than just more PP to hit with, and priority, which could impact the battle against the Onix, but likely doesn't impact the battle against the Geodude at all. And I mean, Tackle already has good PP, so it's really questionable whether or not that's actually going to have any impact on whether or not we can beat Brock. So here, in fact, we didn't level up at all in this run because Rattata is in the medium-fast level up group, which means that it actually levels up slower than other Pokemon at the beginning of the game. And this is going to be terrible for this Pokemon trying to get through Brock. You know, we were just talking about a level 7 or a level 8 Rattata, but here we actually have to fight Brock with a level 6 Rattata, which is gonna be brutal. So, without further ado, let's get to it. We have to really hope for some luck. That's not happening on attempt number 1. The good news is that we're going to get through this, I think, a lot faster because, unlike Pidgey, we're not using a kind of stall-out strat here, so we basically just get to play and lose repeatedly. It's pretty clear that we're only doing 1 damage. I don't think Tail Whip really changes much of anything. It does not, so this is going to be pretty much a run that we can call finished. Like, that's even with multiple Tail Whips. Let's give it 2 more attempts just in case we get crazy good luck with Geodude just missing 20 times in a row. But I'm not going to hold my breath for that, so that's basically what we would need. We would need Geodude to miss. So, as we can see, Rattata just didn't have it going. So, unfortunately, Rattata, you are eliminated from today's challenge. Now, Raticate could be interesting, depending on its moveset, which it starts with. In this generation, I'm not entirely sure what moves it's going to have here right off the start. But we definitely know that if it's going in at level 6, it's going to need to have max stats. That seems pretty obvious. And then on top of that, it's definitely going to need some luck in order to get through. Really, the only way that I could see it getting through would be if it had a move like Hyper Fang at the beginning of the game, which naturally Rattata learns at level 15, but given that it evolves into Raticate at level 20, if there's not a Raticate that's available at a lower level, it might start with that move. And if that is the case, then we may at least have the advantage there of getting through with a stronger attacking move. So it does not have Hyper Fang, unfortunately. It does have Quick Attack, so that gives us a small advantage here. In that we can guarantee that we go first. And we can see that our attacks do quite a bit more damage than the Rattata did. But I think the level might just hold this Raticate back. Because you gotta think, even if it's doing like 2 damage per hit, it's only going in with 28 HP. So if Onix is doing any kind of decent damage and doesn't miss an insane number of times, this is basically going to be impossible. But we're here to test every single Pokemon. Yes, that will even mean when we get to it, Magikarp, to see if it can get through. Of course, we know that Magikarp's probably not going to be able to do it, but it's always fun to just see it, know it, and then we can try the next Pokemon. So, if nothing else, we have a good excuse to hang out for a while, play Pokemon for the next couple hours. So it's my one way to get away from the girlfriend and just enjoy for a little bit. So all right. Back when I first played Generation 1, Raticate was like my least favorite Pokemon because it was always used by the Rockets, and I don't know about anybody else, but I always absolutely hated Team Rocket, so I thought all the Pokemon that they used were also bad, so I didn't want to use any Poison types, because Poison types were bad, and, you know, people really liked Nidorina, Nidoran, line Pokemon, Nidoqueen, Nidoking, but again, they were used by Giovanni, so every time I got to Giovanni, it was like a one-hit fest, so I just thought that they were the weakest Pokemon in the game, and I didn't really want to play against them. So, here we are now battling Brock, and we're doing more damage than we did with Geodude, but I'm pretty sure it's just not going to be enough. So, sorry, we didn't save in front of him. So let's save right there, and let's take attempt number 2. So here, I mean, Tackle is probably as good as anything. But we can see if we just go straight for attacking, we did maybe a third of his HP and damage. Let's see if we throw 2 Tail Whips at him. He did miss 1 attack, but that did not really impact anything. We're gonna need to get some like crazy critical hit luck plus miss luck in order to get through this, so let's take another attempt at him. We got him down to orange health. That was definitely an improvement from before. Let's see if quick attack gets us any further into him. No. Let's take 3 more attempts and then we're going to say that it's not possible. It's one of these things where really if we could get through the Geodude, it might be an interesting challenge, but we just don't really get through him. I mean, I think we definitely at least want to use 2 Tail Whips on him. Last attempt here. And then we have to disqualify the Rattata line. Unfortunately, Rattata and Raticate, they just aren't able to do it. They have a lot of disadvantages. They're at a very low level. They don't really have any way to stall Brock out. So when they're attacking, they're basically just, hitting him, but not doing enough damage. So unfortunately, we're going to disqualify our Rattata and Raticate right there. So next up is the Spearow line. And Spearow's a little bit interesting in the sense that it gets a flying type move. It was always in this generation the first Pokemon that you could get that would actually have a flying type move. You would have to go west of Viridian City to Route, what is that, 22, I think? But basically, you would have to go west of Viridian City and you could catch your level 5 Spearow early on in the game. And I used to get that so I could just go straight through the bug catchers super easy in Viridian Forest. It was really the first situation that you could get where you would have a super effective move. against wild Pokemon. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and try out our Spearow. Again, we're using Game Shark in order to give it max DVs, so hopefully this gets through okay. Now, I'm not entirely sure, but hey, that didn't work. Let's try one more attempt at the rival here. There we go, we got through. So I'm not entirely sure, but I think that Spearow is also in the slower level up group, which means that it's probably going to reach Brock at level 6, the same as Geodude and... the same as Rattata and Raticate, and that's definitely not going to bode well if it turns out to be the case, because it's going to be the same situation where we don't have an attack that can do much damage. We don't really have any way of stalling out the Geodude, and because of that, we might just get knocked out pretty quick. Now, if instead it levels up faster, which I have to double check which level up group it's in, but if it does get to level 8, it might do slightly better. It does have Growl in order to lower the Geodude's attack, and it does have a stab move, so it should theoretically do maybe 2 damage as opposed to 1 damage, provided that it's strong enough. I mean, this line does have decent attack, so I would expect that it's pretty good. In this game, Fearow was another one of those Pokemon that I really just didn't like to use at all. Spearow and Fearow... I used Spearow early in the game, but basically once you got Fearow at level 20, it already seemed like such a weak Pokemon in terms of it didn't really have a good moveset, and it couldn't damage a lot of Pokemon. It was pretty well walled by several types, so it always just felt like, oh, this Pokemon does like no damage. But then I was playing Pokemon Stadium, and there was an opponent that had a Fearow that used Drill Peck, and it always used to take me out. Anyway, we're finally to Brock, so let's go ahead and try this. As we can see, we did not level up in the forest, so we are still level 6. So I think our best strategy is just to growl at him to try to get his damage down, and then to peck away and hope that we get enough luck. Clearly that one didn't work. So if we just use peck, we can see that he basically takes us out in 4 hits. If we growl at him, I think we can get the number of hits that he takes us out in to be higher, but it's still more delaying the inevitable than anything else, and especially if he gets crits like that. Yeah, this episode for some parts is going to be an exercise in futility for sure, because we have some of the Pokemon that are going to be just the weakest against Brock and not really have much of a chance to get through. But that's okay. We're going to have stretches later on where we get Pokemon that are so good against Brock that we're basically just going to crush through with almost no difficulty. It seems in Generation 1 that as the numbers go up, typically the power of the Pokemon also went up. It's not true with the starters. The starters are pretty good Pokemon in their own right. Let's take one last attempt at Brock, and then we're going to call this impossible. And there we have it. We didn't even get to hit him. We were still setting up growls. So, clearly Spearow, sorry, but you're out of the tournament. But, like I said, so later in the challenge, we may have certain Pokemon that do much better in this part. Especially as we get to Pokemon that have higher numbers, if you will. They're going to have a lot more special moves, they're going to have a lot more status moves that they can use that at least make Brock waste turns using full heals. They're much more likely to be just stronger Pokemon in general. And all of those factors kind of come together. So really, this episode 2 is probably the biggest slog that we're going to have as far as trying to get through Brock. When we get to episode 3, like, we'll look at the Pokemon for next time a little bit later, but you'll see there are going to be some Pokemon that are absolute shoo-ins that are just going to make Brock look like a joke. Of course, whenever we can get water-type moves or grass-type moves, it's basically a guarantee that we're going to get through. But even some Pokemon that don't get those types of moves might be able to get through if they have good enough stats, good enough abilities. So let's go ahead and use our Fearow here. And as we can see, the one advantage our Fearow has is that it starts with Leer. But otherwise, it's just an evolved form, so it gets higher stats. Which is really going to be the only thing that we get. We're still going to get there at level 6. So this is going to be a challenging run, but with higher stats, we might just be able to make it happen. There's only one way to find out, which is to battle through Brock with this Fearow and see if it's possible. So, really, in the end, there's 151 Pokemon in Generation 1. And what I'm curious about is how many of those Pokemon, as a percentage, are actually able to make it through this part of the challenge. Of course, once we get through Brock, we're going to continue to Misty, and then continue through basically the middle of the game, so everything up to Giovanni. And then the last stretch is going to be Giovanni plus the Elite Four to see how well they do. Misty is the next trainer that, or the next gym leader rather, that we actually have to beat to progress in the game. After that, we can actually skip Lieutenant Surge. And we could basically go all the way up to Giovanni without battling Surge. And there would be nothing wrong with that. Because the only HM that he allows us to use is Fly, which we don't actually need. And then you got to keep in mind that Strength, in this case, we don't actually need to use Strength until we get to Victory Road. So the only other gym leader that we absolutely have to beat in order to get to Blaine is Koga. So we have to do Blaine or Koga before Blaine, but outside of that, there's really no particular order that we have to do the next 5 gym leaders in. Misty we do have to beat because she gives us the ability to use Cut. So, alright, here we are. We are at Geodude. I think that we need to use Growl. I think we need to use Leer. And then we just have to try to plow on through. So that did not work. Let's see if we Leer him a couple times. What that does. Okay, that didn't work. See how far down we can take his damage with Growl. Okay, so no matter what we do, he's doing 2 damage to us. So that's educational to know. So once we get him to do just 2 damage, let's switch into Leer. Let's see how we do here. Okay. And that was bad. We did not want that critical hit. When we've fully set up on this Geodude, we really want it to just use, or we really want to hit it normally so that it takes the maximum amount of damage. And that might be a huge disadvantage of Fearow. It might be because its base speed is so high in this generation, it gets really high critical hit rate. It's been talked about before by other Pokemon YouTubers, but basically in Generation 1, critical hits are tied to base speed. And in this case, because Fearow has good speed, it keeps getting crits, and we don't want that. We want it to just hit normally. As we can see, when we don't get a crit, we're doing decent damage, but when we get a crit, we're doing like half of the damage as when we don't crit. So this might just be possible to get through if we can avoid critical hits. Okay. Like, if we could get a clutch miss or something. Well, that's not what we need. We need the Geodudes to not critical hit us. So we basically have to get 3 growls off, then set up. Okay, and there we actually got through Geodude. And now we definitely need to growl at Onix. And that just didn't work out. We just didn't have enough HP. So it's basically 3 growls at Geodude. And then at some point, are we better off just pecking? Three growls. Let's try 4 Leers. And then let's try to peck him down. Okay, and we got through. And as we can see, that bind just locked us in and got us. So let's take 2 more attempts with this. 4, 5. And we got taken out. So last attempt here. That's pretty clutch. He had a miss. We've gotten off 6 Leers. And we really need to not crit him. Okay. Okay, bide is exactly what we like to see there. And we were taken out. So I think it's safe to say that Fearow just isn't good enough in order to get through Brock. Unfortunately, at level 6, it's just not going to happen. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get rid of Fearow. Now the next Pokemon here, I think are really going to be the interesting ones. Ekans and Arbok. Now, as we load up our game and we get started, of course we're going to give these Pokemon max DVs, same as all of our other Pokemon. But this one could be really interesting because Wrap. Wrap might make Geodude a piece of cake, and if it does, then it's going to be silly, but having the ability to get through Geodude consistently would at least make these Pokemon better than Spearow, Fearow, Rattata, and Raticate. And possibly give them a chance with good enough luck to get through Brock himself. So here we can see that we start with Wrap and Leer, which are going to be our 2 very broken moves to get through. As we can see, basically Wrap allowed us to get through our rival with no challenge. It just doesn't do a lot of damage. So we might be doing 1 damage per turn, but if the opponent can't move, 1 damage per turn is more than enough, provided that we don't run out of PP in order to get through. So what we really need is Wrap to hit multiple times. It can hit up to 5 times. So even if we're doing 1 damage, if we get a 5-turn Wrap, we would be able to do 5 points of damage to Brock's Pokemon, as opposed to just 1 or 2 damage like other Pokemon do. Plus, we would potentially stop the Geodude or the Onix from moving, which could really set us up where we're able to get through pretty consistently on the basis that we're just denying them opportunities to hit us. So, let's go ahead and get through Viridian Forest and see how this goes. Alright, so here we've got the Caterpie. We're just going to lure it a couple times in order to lower its defense, and boom, we've gotten through. That was very, very easy. And we definitely need all the PP that we can get for this battle, so here we are. We are at Brock. Let's take a quick look at our Ekans. Now our Ekans, just like the Spearow line and the Rattata line, is only at level 6 because it's part of that medium fast level up group. We don't have great stats by any means, but what we're hoping is that Wrap is the key that lets us get through. So let's try our first round. Let's just use Wrap against Geodude, and as we can see, we're outspeeding, and we're not taking any damage unless Wrap misses, because we have this multi-turn, multi-hit move that damages Onix now, or damages Geodude. So we got through using 9 power points of Wrap. I definitely think that we need to Leer at Onix in order to make this possible. Okay. And now we're just hoping to get Wrap off. So that one, he used Screech on us. We were basically just taken out. And here, I mean, the strategy against Geodude is probably just to Wrap it and try to minimize the number of times that it can hit us. So that time, instead, we used 10 Wraps to get through. It's going to be a little random on the basis that okay, so yeah, it unleashed energy, but basically we're hoping that we can get through. Now, we've run out of power points, which is a really big deal. That could be the challenge here. So let's just see if we use Leer a couple times against Onix or against Geodude. Will it let us get through with more power points? And it doesn't look like that affected things at all. We still got through with the same number of power points. So it really looks like we just have to get luck with how many times Wrap hits against Geodude. Like, we need as many 5-turn Wraps as possible in order to get through. Okay, so yeah, we used 10 Wraps. And that's one of the issues. Wrap has low accuracy, so it has a tendency to miss. And that's the last thing that we want to see, is our attack miss when we're using Wrap. And there, we've just run out of power points, so we need to survive long enough to use up all of our PP for Leer. So I have one idea, which is basically whenever he uses Bide, like, let's definitely make sure that we switch into Leer and try to use up as many Leers as possible against him. And then we really just have to hope for good luck with our accuracy. See, there we had to use 13 wraps to get through Geodude, which is absolutely terrible. Like, we need it to hit first, and then we need it to do enough turns against Geodude that we're able to get through without using up all of our PP. So there we used 14 PP for wrap. That was a really bad one. Let's see. We're gonna take a couple more attempts at this. Really, we just need it to hit. And we need it to do decent damage when it hits. Okay, so it took us 11 wraps to get through Geodude. Okay. Okay. Yeah, keep using Bide, Onyx. And as we can see, we just didn't... We ran out of PP before we could get through. So, this is going to be our last attempt. But let's see if we can get through with just a little more luck. Now, we like when wrap critical hits, because in this generation for multi-turn moves, critical hits mean that all of the turns critical hit. Now that was pretty good. We got through using only 10 of our wraps on that one. We really want to get off all of our Leers here to start. Okay. And we just weren't able to get through. So, unfortunately, I think we're going to have to call it there for Ekans. Ekans looked like it had some promise, but keep in mind, this is an Ekans with perfect stats. It has the max 15 DVs in every single stat. So if that Ekans can't get through, we really just have to say that it's probably not going to be possible. And with that, we are halfway through today's Pokemon. But the next one, Arbok. I think this Pokemon has a real chance to get through. Basically, we're going to be using the exact same strategy as we were using with Ekans, which is the wrap strategy. The difference, however, is going to be that Arbok is, being an evolved Pokemon, a much stronger Pokemon than Ekans is. It's got better stats, it's going to have better speed. It might be able to get through Brock using the exact same strategy with just a little bit of luck. Even Brock, it looked like we were just running out of PP. If we could have enough PP, there were 3 or 4 attempts there where we could have gotten through Brock and probably been just fine. So if we can do even just a little bit more damage here, I think we're gonna have an advantage and be able to get through. So there goes our Arbok, and we've leveled up to level 6. Perfect. That is the level that we're going to reach Brock at. So we just have to see what happens here. Oops, that's not what we wanted. So speaking of, one of my favorite glitches in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow is that if you ever somehow catch another Pokemon before you give the Pokedex, or you give Oak's Parcel rather, to Professor Oak, because you have two Pokemon, he'll think that you already have the Pokedex, and he'll never give it to you, which means that you can't progress through the game. It becomes soft lock. So, situations where you could run into that is like if you use a Pokemon randomizer, like the Ultimate Pokemon Randomizer, and you somehow get, you know, a Pokeball or a Master Ball or something before you go back to Professor Oak, you could catch a Pokemon, just not even thinking about it, and then go and see him with his parcel, and then he just doesn't do anything, and you sit there and you're like, oh, now I have to cheat to walk through walls. It's Game Shark time. But anyway, one of the other things that a lot of people perhaps don't know is that you can get free Pokeballs in these games. All you have to do is first fight the rival in Professor Oak's lab, then go get the Pokedex, then go fight your rival west of Viridian City, and then finally what you have to do is go back to Professor Oak and talk to him, and he'll actually give you free Pokeballs. It's one of those kind of Easter eggs that a lot of people didn't know, and I think I finally saw it published a few months ago online, but it was one of those things that I knew from when I was a kid, and I always thought that everybody knew that, because I played these games for thousands of hours when I was young, and I tried every possible permutation of pretty much everything at that time in order to see what was and was not possible. So I knew it, but apparently other people didn't know that. Yeah, it's very easy to get free Pokeballs in this game. Anyway, so we are back at Brock. Our moveset is just slightly different from Ekans in that we have Poison Sting. Based on our experience with Beedrill, I don't think Poison Sting is going to make any real impact on this fight, but let's see if we can get through with minimum battles. So, first, let's try just the same as Ekans. Let's just use Wrap and try to get through Geodude as quickly as possible, taking as little damage as possible. Now, the one thing that we can see is we're going to have more PP than we did in the last battle, because in this case, we're able to use Poison Sting instead. So, that might be something that comes up. Especially, I mean, at level 8, we're at a higher level than we ever were with Beedrill, so part of Beedrill's problem was that it couldn't do damage because it was at too low of a level. But there it did not seem that Poison Sting was effective, so let's take another attempt at this. So, used Leer a couple times on Geodude just to see what that will do. I mean, we probably have to use like 3 Leers before it really has any impact at all. So it looks like Poison Sting can do just a little bit of damage. Now, the advantage of using Poison Sting is that if we do manage to poison him, he's going to waste his turn using a retroactive full heal. So now, we outspeed. We've got his defense as low as it can possibly go. And we've gotten through with 2 HP on Arbok. We were able to get through and beat him. Oh, that is awesome. So that's pretty much as close as it can get using a Pokemon on minimum battles to beat Brock with 2 HP remaining. That is clutch. So Arbok, with the Wrap strat, gets to continue. Now, for our next Pokemon, we're going to be using the mascot of Pokemon Yellow. Of course, that Pokemon is Pikachu. Pikachu is probably one of the Pokemon that I'm the most excited to do in this run, because I really had to think about Pikachu before even starting this. You see, Pikachu is pretty unique, and I expected when I played this game for the first time, there was going to be some way, some special ability or something that would let my Pikachu get through Brock, because that's what happened in the anime. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't learn any special moves naturally early in the game that will let us get through, but this intro does give us a little peek, you just saw it, of something that we could use in order to get through Brock. That, my friends, is the Surfing Pikachu. Yes. For those who don't know, in Generation 1, Pikachu was able to get the move Surf via Pokemon Stadium. Basically, you had to beat a bunch of challenges with a Pikachu in your team every time. But if you were able to do it, you were going to end up being able to get Surf on your Pikachu. So today, we're going to turn on the gym battle music, because what we really want to find out is, can Pikachu beat Brock if we not only give it perfect stats, but on top of that, we give it the perfect move, which is Surf. Now, we're allowing Surf in this game because that is a legitimate move that Pikachu could have in Generation 1. All you had to do was play Pokemon Stadium and you could get this Pikachu. So the way that we're going to do it is we're going to add a code that basically in the third move slot, is going to add Surf to our Pikachu. So I'm using a Game Shark for it today, but of course if we want to go through later, at a later time, we might go through Pokemon Stadium Generation 1 and get ourselves a legitimate Surfing Pikachu just to see how it is. That would be a heck of a lot of fun, I think. So, here we can see that our Pikachu... Ooh, we put Surf in the wrong position. We needed it in... Edit. That shouldn't be 7.3, that should be 7.4. Let's see if we unbroke it. Okay, well, we're going to have a Pikachu that doesn't know Growl but knows Surf. And take out Eevee super easily with that. And we learned Tail Whip. Hey, very nice. So, as we can see, we get to do the official Pokemon thing, which is have Pikachu follow us around on the overworld map. But this Pikachu, really, when you think about Pikachu, it's not a great Pokemon, but it does well overall in the game when you really think about it. Think about its attacks. It has Thunder-type attacks, electric attacks, so Thunder, Thunderbolt, which are very effective in a lot of parts of the game. It's, of course, going to have an easy time against Misty, but it's also going to resist the stab attacks of Lieutenant Surge. It's going to do very, very well when we get late in the game and we start fighting like Lorelei. And it's going to do well against Lance as well, because a lot of Lance's Pokemon are weak to Thunder-type attacks. And the rival, of course, is going to have some Pokemon that are weak to Thunder as well. So it's really one of those things where it's just the resistance of ground types to electric-type moves that holds Pikachu back. And the same will be true for its evolution Raichu. Now, of course, if there's a Surfing Pikachu, there's going to be a Surfing Raichu as well. But what we're going to see here is that really, if we have access to this one move, which is legitimate in Generation 1, watch Brock melt. That's 1 hit, 2 hits. And a level 6 Pikachu is able to get through Brock with basically no challenge whatsoever. So, if Pikachu can do it, of course Raichu, this is just going to be an absolute piece of cake for it. But Pikachu is really going to be interesting to see how far it can go. In some of my play testing for this sort of run, I actually used Raichu before with this same sort of situation where I was doing minimum battles and I gave Raichu access to Surf. And when I did that, I found that it was not only possible but absolutely a cakewalk to get through not just Brock, but most of the game. Where I finally saved was after beating the rival just before going to the Elite Four, before going to Victory Road. And I found it so shocking that just one move basically was enough to get this Raichu all the way to the end game with very little difficulty. So basically, I'm expecting Raichu to do really awesome things here. We're going to go ahead and give it Surf as well. Let's enable that code. And now let's go get our Raichu here. Now, I did not play through the Elite Four on that test run because I didn't want to know if Raichu would actually be able to finish the game with its moveset, but what I can say is that Surf was basically making Raichu able to deal with all of its biggest threats, and because of that, it really became just a matter of, okay, can I do anything to improve my moveset slightly in order to get through? There were, of course, a couple of times where I had to really think about moves and decide, if a certain move type was useful or not, but it was basically Surf, Thunderbolts, Thunder Wave, and a physical attacking move, which, keep in mind, you can't get Body Slam because that's locked behind a trainer on the SSM, so we never get Body Slam, but I was using Rest Strats at one point a little bit, and I was using Toxic at one point a little bit, but I was basically finding that with the right strategies and with the right paralysis luck, basically, you could get through a lot of Pokemon with Raichu. And then when you added in Surf, it was able to get through Giovanni. And the rival really wasn't that difficult. So basically, Raichu I already know can get through this part, provided it has this one move in Surf. But if it doesn't have Surf, it's absolutely impossible, and it's just disqualified right here at Brock. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and just take out this Caterpie, super easy peasy, and then once again, Brock. I don't think we even need to heal before Brock with our Surfing Raichu. Like, you might say, Surfing Raichu, Surfing Pikachu, come on, Teo, what are you talking about? But keep in mind, this game has a minigame just after Koga, where you can actually play a surfing minigame with your Pikachu. And in Pokemon Stadium of Generation 1, you would actually go to the Gym Leader Castle and fight Lieutenant Surge, and if you put out a Golem or a Rhydon to try to take out his Raichu, he would use Surf against you, and you would be sitting there like, what? So, with that, we're now going to be able to say that let's update our stats here just a little bit. So Pidgey was out, Rattata was out, Raticate was out, Spearow was a fail, Fearow was a fail. Ekans was a fail. But now Arbok, Pikachu, and Raichu. Pikachu and Raichu are here to stay. But, of course, this is only thanks to some special typing here. So we're going to give ourselves a Surfing Pikachu and a Surfing Raichu sprite. This is the Surfing Raichu from Pokemon Stadium in Generation 1, when you would be fighting Lieutenant Surge. So, next, let's look at the Sandshrew line. Now, Sandshrew is going to be very similar, I think, to Pidgey, in the sense that we're basically using a Sand Attack strat here in order to try to get through. The big challenge that Sandshrew and Sandslash are going to have is that they're in a slower level up group. So they're probably going to reach Brock only at level 6. Given that they also don't have any good attack typing against him, this might be on the cusp. So just like we saw with Pidgey, Pidgey looked like it was just barely losing, where if it got amazing luck, it could get through. But keep in mind that Pidgey was also 2 levels higher than these Pokemon are likely going to be when we reach Brock. On that basis, I'm not too hopeful for Sandshrew. Sandslash? Possibly, but not Sandshrew here. So, if we go ahead and check our Sandshrew here, we can see, I mean, it's got good attack and good defense. That's really the benefit of Sandshrew. But here, we didn't actually even start with Sand Attack, so we have to hope to get Sand Attack. So, on that basis, this Sandshrew might already just be a loss, given that it doesn't have any real way to get through. Sandslash, I know, starts with Sand Attack. That's why I'm saying Sand Attack strats. But Sandshrew, what level does it learn Sand Attack at? I'm guessing something like level 10 or 12 or 11 or something like that, which is going to make this really, really not a good run. Now, when I first got this, I was really hoping that Sandslash would learn Slash, which if it does, that would be an awesome move, because Slash in this generation is basically an auto hit, a critical hit move. And if you can automatically critical hit, you've got a chance against just about anything. But at the same time, we're likely talking about a level 6 Sandslash, so maybe it's not really anything to write home about. So let's go ahead and get through. I'm a little disappointed. I thought that we were going to start with Sand Attack on this Sandshrew, but apparently not. But we do have decent defense with this Pokemon. That's the one big advantage that we're taking into Brock here, is that our defense stat is much higher than a lot of other Pokemon. Maybe that will mean that his Geodude doesn't do a huge amount of damage to us. Well, there's only one way to find out. So, here we go. And we can see that we're really just not doing enough damage. Oh, and that took us all the way back to the rival. Oh no. So yeah, as we can see, it's really the only advantage that we have as Sandshrew is that we basically have higher defense. I'm going to go ahead and say that we could pretty much call this one right here, but for the sake of being a completionist, let's go back and take at least a few more attempts at the gym. Sorry for the save miss there, guys, but we'll get through. So there we go. We got Oak's Parcel to him. Like we can see, I mean, Sandshrew is pretty good against Pokemon that have weak attack and that we can do neutral damage to. So like Caterpie. But it's just bad in the case where we can't do enough damage to get through, as is the case with the Geodude. So I'm not too hopeful that we're going to see anything that really changes our mind about Sandshrew. Especially because if it doesn't have Sand Attack, and it does get to Onix, like what's it going to do against Onix? Like Onix is just going to use Bide, we're going to sit there and attack it, and then we're basically going to get taken out. That being said, I mean the Sandshrew of the junior trainer before Brock definitely was always a wall in the early game. Like I would always judge whether or not I was ready for Brock based on that Sandshrew. Because if you could take out that Sandshrew pretty reliably, you might have a decent chance of taking Brock out too. Okay, and now let's try saving again right here. And let's try to get through Brock. So, there's only one attack, there's only one move, and it is Scratch. So, really, this is very similar to our Charmander run earlier on, where the only way that we could ever get through would be if he just missed like a million times and we got critical hits like every single hit, which the amount of luck that would be required in order to do that would just be insane. So let's take 2 more attempts just to say that we did it. But I think we can see that this is a pretty consistent loss here. Like there's not even anything that we can see that would suggest that there would even be a chance of getting through. Now Sandslash, on the other hand, I know it's got to start with Sand Attack. It just has to, right? Like if it doesn't have Sand Attack, then GG, we're basically in the same boat. I mean, maybe not if it has significantly higher stats, but it doesn't look too good. But if it does have Sand Attack, we might be looking at a winner right there. So let's go ahead and try. So here we are. We've got our Sandslash. We're still going to reach Brock at level 6, but it's very possible that this Sand Attack, if we have it, will be the key. So let's just check. Yes, we do start with Sand Attack. So start by Sand Attacking Eevee a few times, and then go ahead and take it out. Perfect. And Sandslash is gonna go ahead and use its attacks to try to get through. We do have perfect stats on this Sandshrew, which is all you can ask for. And then it's really just a matter of RNG luck. If we can get enough misses from the Geodude, and if we can land enough attacks and get some critical hits and what have you, this might just be possible. So it's always strange to me in these Generation 1 games what moves evolved Pokemon will start with. The one that sticks out in my mind the most was always Gyarados. Because when you used Gyarados, you would actually start with Dragon Rage, if I recall correctly. And Dragon Rage and Hydro Pump. But just having Dragon Rage early in the game is like having this ultimate one-hit KO move, because so many early game Pokemon have less than 40 HP. So if you could get Dragon Rage into Brock, you would basically take him out in 2 hits. So I'm really looking forward to when we get later in the game, because, yeah, Magikarp's going to be a boring run, but when we get to Gyarados, it's going to be a really interesting run, because the early game, even up through Misty, is going to be such a piece of cake. Then it's only going to take neutral damage from Erica. It's just going to be an insanely interesting Pokemon to play, I think. Okay, here we are at Brock. It's time to use Sand Attack against Geodude. So we've set up 6 Sand Attacks on Geodude, and now we just have to try to batter our way through with Scratch. Keep in mind, we'll likely level up if we get through the Geodude, so the big thing holding us back is that we're at such a low level here. It looks like normally we could withstand 6 attacks from Geodude because it's doing 5 damage per attack. But so then it's really just a matter of luck. Geodude with the maximum reduction in its accuracy should be hitting about 25% of the time. So on every hit, it's more likely, or every turn rather, it's more likely that it misses than that it hits. But we still need to get quite a bit of luck, given how many hits it's going to take it down, to have it miss that many times in a row. Yeah, that one just didn't work. So we like every miss that we see from Geodude. Okay, that's 6. And now we just really need him to start missing like crazy. But on average, he's going to hit 1 in every 4 times. So we can imagine that we get 4 attacks off for each attack that he lands. Okay, we got through all of our setup without him hitting, which is good. And now we just need to get luck. Keep in mind, if we get to Onix, we're going to level up. And if we level up, we're going to get more HP. And we might just be able to do this. Okay, we've gotten through Geodude. And now we need to Sand Attack Onix into Oblivion. Okay, and now it's really a matter of trying to do as little damage as possible. I mean, there's not much to be done here. Like, we're using Struggle now. And as we can see, we're just not going to have enough HP to get through him at that point. That was our best run by far. So we're definitely going to need to get a lot of luck with critical hits in order to make it any sort of legitimate opportunity. So there we lost again to Geodude. Got about 4 more attempts to go. But we've got 1 attempt where we did in fact manage to get through Geodude, which is pretty sick. It really puts Sandslash right on that cusp of is it possible or not? Because once we get to Geodude or get to Onix, it's really a matter of PP. So how much health we get to Onix with, and then how much damage we're able to do. You know, ideally critical hitting in order to take it down faster. This Geodude just has so much health, which is what makes it difficult. So let's take one last attempt here. It's setting up pretty good so far. Like, there would be some fringe chance where we just never get hit by the Geodude after this. meaning that we would have a good amount of health for Onix when we finally do get to struggling. And then ideally the Onix would miss a lot of attacks against us. And we weren't able to make it through. So with that being said, I think we're going to have to say that Sandslash, unfortunately, is out. I think if Sandslash were just a couple levels higher, it might be able to do this, but the fact that it has to fight at level 6 is what did it in. So finally, we've got our last set of Pokemon. We're coming up towards the end here. I know this has been a very long video, but I think this is likely the longest video that we're going to have. After this, we're going to have a lot of runs where there's going to be Pokemon that just absolutely shred Brock. The real question is, do you think even 50% of Pokemon can get through Brock on minimum battles? When I was thinking about it, really, Brock is weak against Pokemon that have special type moves. We saw that with the Charmeleon and Charizard runs, where, sure, Charmeleon and Charizard don't have any sort of type advantage, but because they have special moves in Ember, they were actually able to get through Brock with a reasonable amount of consistency. When we think about it that way, some Pokemon that come to mind are Vulpix, Ponyta. They might be able to make it through just on the basis of having a special type move to use against Onix and Geodude. The other thing that we saw was that Pokemon that were able to use status on Geodude basically were able to get through by exploiting the fact that Brock will always use a full heal, and he uses it retroactively. He uses it immediately. It's a quirk of Generation 1. But basically, he would use a full heal, which would then mean that he'd just let you hit him for another turn. So if you're using a move that has status and has a high hit rate, high accuracy, you might be able to get him to waste a bunch of turns. So that makes me think of some Pokemon like Jinx, for example, where Jinx only knows Pound at the beginning of the game, but it also knows Lovely Kiss. And Lovely Kiss might be able to put Brock's Pokemon to sleep, get them to waste some moves until they use up all of their full heals. I think it's 5 per Pokemon. And then you can actually put them to sleep and actually battle your way through Brock with no challenge, maybe? Finally, of course, there's a lot of Pokemon that are going to have type advantages when we get to Brock. Thinking about Pokemon like fighting types, so maybe not Mankey, because Mankey won't be a high enough level, I don't think, to know Low Kick yet, but Machop will know Karate Chop, so the Machop line, even though Karate Chop is a normal type move, it will still allow them to do more damage to Brock's Pokemon because they'll be getting critical hits every turn as opposed to, just normal hits. And then finally, we have to think about Pokemon that maybe they don't have any special advantage in terms of their move set, but they might have an advantage in terms of their typing for defense purposes. So, of course, Ghastly is going to be a piece of cake. The Ghastly Gengar line is going to be a guaranteed win. There's no way that they can lose against Brock because none of his attacks other than Bide can hit them. But also thinking of a Pokemon like Rhydon or Onix, depending on their move sets, it might be possible to get through there as well. So here we're going ahead with the battle, Nidoran Female versus Geodude. And this one I don't expect to be very good because naturally what we can see is that we only have physical type moves, and we can only use Growl. And it looks like he's doing 3 damage to start, and I doubt we can get him to do 1 damage. Nope. So that's the max amount that we could Growl him, and he's still doing 2 damage per hit. So there's really no point in using any more than 3 Growls on him. Ooh, and he missed. That was lucky. So now we really just have to try to take him down. Like, we're getting like 12 turns to take him out. The problem is that we just don't do enough damage. So one of the things with Nidoran female is it has decent defense, but it just doesn't have as much attack. So unless he wants to really miss a lot of times in a row, this is going to be a very tough out. In this generation, Nidoran has different movesets depending on the version that you're playing. In yellow version, it does have the ability to learn Double Kick, but you have to get to level 12, I believe, to learn Double Kick. And they moved Poison Sting to be like way late in its moveset, which never made any sense to me because Poison Sting is already such a weak move. Like, why would you delay it? Like, there's no benefit to the player. But I guess they just didn't want you to learn too many moves too close together, so they moved Poison Sting to like way later, but then gave it Double Kick at level 12. But obviously on minimum battles, we're not going to make it to level 12. So sure, we've got 13 turns to take this Geodude out, but unless we're going to get incredible miss and critical hit luck, I think we can say right there that this one is not possible. So Nidoran female, sorry, but you are out. Now, Nidorina, we have to see what moves it starts with. If the Nidorina gets all of the moves that Nidoran female would know prior to evolution into Nidorina, then this is actually a cakewalk because it's going to know Double Kick. But if it doesn't get all of those moves, instead it might just start out just knowing Scratch on top of its basic moves. And if that's the case, then we're going to be a little disappointed because, you know, it's not going to be the best situation. The only real advantage that it might have is having higher stats and then having, you know, more HP in order to tank hits. But outside of that, it might be a situation where it doesn't actually have an advantage. So we're really hoping that this Nidorina starts with Double Kick. Now, whatever it starts with, that's going to also tell us a lot about Nidorino later, because it would make sense that they would be consistent. So, yep, we can see here that it starts with Scratch, but otherwise it's the same moveset that we got to Brock with before. So the only thing that we really have to help us out is theoretically better stats. Like, we're still going to reach level 8 before reaching Brock, which will be good. It's one of the nice things is that whenever a Pokemon evolves, it still levels up at the same rate as its pre-evolution. They're always part of the same level up, group. At least in Generation 1. I don't know about later generations, but so if you have a Bulbasaur and it levels up to level 8 in Viridian Forest, then you know that Venusaur is going to level up to level 8 in Viridian Forest as well. And there's only really 4 level groups in Generation 1. There's the fast level group, which includes Pokemon like Clefairy. There's the medium slow level up group, which is the second fastest for most of the game. That is Pokemon like Bulbasaur. Most of the time it's 3-stage evolution Pokemon, but not always. Then you have the medium fast level up group, which actually levels up slower than the medium slow level up group to show you how great the programming of this game was. So the medium slow level up group includes the Pokemon like Butterfree, like Raticate, that we've seen that only got to level 6. And then finally, there's a slow level up group. And this applies to legendary Pokemon and quote-unquote pseudo-legendary Pokemon. So Pokemon like Cloyster or Pokemon like Arcanine are pseudo-legendaries in this game. They have very, very high stat totals that almost put them on par with being legendary. In fact, we'll see later the description of Arcanine actually calls it a legendary Pokemon in this generation. So when you get those Pokemon, you'll often get a slow level up group. And what that really means is that they are really not going to get much experience. Now, this is very interesting. Sorry, to break back to the battle. We just saw Geodude do 1 damage to Nidorina after using 6 growls. So this might be a case where 6 growls is incredibly important because we might be able to reach the point where it does so little damage to us that we're actually able to get enough attacks off to take it out. Now we need it not to critical hit like that, because critical hits will of course ignore stat changes. But if we can get it where it doesn't critical hit us, and we get its attack down low enough, we might be able to take this Geodude out. So, of course, I need to not mess up and use an attacking move the first turn. We definitely need to preserve as much HP as possible. So clearly, if we were using items, this would probably be possible because we'd get its attack down so low that it would only be doing 1 damage to us per turn. And then what we'd do is we'd heal up when we got low on HP. And from there, we'd just continue and take it out. So if you were playing the game normally, not playing with any sort of, no items rule, this again would be actually, it looks like for Nidorina, this would be fairly easy to do. But we do have rules that say that we can't use items. And because of that, we actually need to get some luck here. It looks like we were just short of being able to take it out. So we need some miss luck, some critical hit luck, something to be able to get through. It's like so close when we get a good run. Oh man. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. It's as low as its stats will go. We got 25 turns this time if it doesn't get any crits. This is one of those where we really just want to critical hit it and not get critical hit like that. So close. If we did not get that critical hit, I'm actually convinced we would have gotten through that time. So it's really just Geodude, don't critical hit. See, there's another crit from Geodude, which it shouldn't have a super high critical hit rate, given that it's such a slow Pokemon, but it's just a fact that because we have to take so many turns, it's likely that it will get a critical hit, even after we've set up completely on it. So we just have to hope that we can get through without it critical hitting us, and with us getting critical hits against it. Yeah, we're so close to taking out this Geodude. So let's give it another go here. Now this Geodude seems to still do 2 damage to us. So this Geodude clearly is a better Geodude than average. It must be one that has high attack DVs, which we don't want. Ideally, we want a Geodude that has low attack DVs, low defense DVs, and has low HP. Would be perfect for our opponent to have. Now, I don't know how we could ever impact our opponent's DVs, because they're just like a random Pokemon, whatever that Pokemon's stats happen to be. But let's hope he misses. Ah, come on. Seems like every time Geodude gets at least 1 critical hit against us. So we're going to give this 2 more attempts, and then we're going to say that this is not possible. But I really want to get to Onix one time. Come on, Geodude, let us get to Onix one time. Come on, get a miss. Ah, he got us there. Last attempt. Okay, we have 25 HP. Ah, and he critical hit us. Onix, or Geodude, you jerk. You're not letting us get through to Onix. So with that, I think we're going to have to say that Nidorina is not possible. We have to think, even if we got through with Nidorina, even if we got through the Geodude with Nidorina, we'd still be in the situation where we'd have very little HP for the Onix. We'd have to get amazing luck against the Onix in order to get through. On the scale of, within 10 attempts, is it possible? I think not super likely. So finally, we're on our last Pokemon for today, which is our Nidoqueen. Now, Nidoqueen is going to be very special because Pokemon that have stone evolutions in this generation, whenever they're caught wild or whenever they're game sharked in, they start out with a bunch of extra moves. So in this case, our Nidoqueen, as far as I can remember, is actually going to start with Body Slam. And Body Slam could give us a huge advantage against Brock because it's a paralysis move. So there we have it. We can see we have Tackle, Scratch, Tail Whip, and Body Slam. This Nidoqueen did not learn Growl, but because it has Body Slam and because Body Slam has a chance to paralyze, it's actually, plus it's a super powerful move for this early in the game, it's actually going to give us a chance against Brock. Keep in mind, if we inflict status on Brock, for example, we paralyze his Pokemon, he'll immediately use a full heal. But for our purposes, a full heal is basically exactly the same as him missing an attack, because it gives us another turn to hit Geodude without taking damage, or a turn to hit Onix without taking damage. So it's really one of those things where status moves in this sort of challenge, damage dealing moves that can also inflict a status, I guess I should say. But if you have a move that can inflict a status ailment and does damage to Brock, we have a much, much better chance of getting through because he's just going to waste turns against us. The reason that we couldn't use that with Weedle or Beedrill was because the damage done by Poison Sting was so little that they couldn't even hit and cause status on him. Basically, if the move is too weak, it will just always say attack missed unless you get a critical hit. And their critical hit chance is just too low to rely on that in order to beat Brock. So on that basis, we had to just give up on that sort of strategy. But an attack like Body Slam, plus keep in mind that Nidoqueen gets there at level 8, means that we're going to actually be able to do decent damage here and have a chance to paralyze, which might be just what we need in order to get through Brock. So here we are. This is our last Pokemon of today. Let's find out. Can Nidoqueen beat Brock? Minimum battles, level 8. Let's try the first time just Body Slam. So it doesn't do a ton of damage, but there we can see paralysis, and Brock immediately used a full heal. So that effectively was a miss. And there's another full heal. And there's another full heal. Boom. We got through Geodude. Now, we really want Onix to be paralyzed, yes. That's 3 turns in a row, 4 turns in a row of paralysis. Okay, you can use Bide. We don't care, we're just going to tail whip you. And now, he uses full heal, and we're out of Body Slams, that's okay. We just scratch, and Onix is out of there. So, finally, we get to end today seeing that Nidoqueen, yes, you were a champion against Brock. So, today we finished with, out of our 15 Pokemon, 7 were able to get through Brock on minimum battles. We were able to do it with Pidgeotto, Pidgeot, then with Arbok using the Wrap strategy. Pikachu and Raichu were able to do it because of the existence of Surfing Pikachu in this generation. We were able to use Surf to one-hit Brock's Pokemon due to its 4 times effectiveness, plus being a special type move. Geodude and Onix really struggle against special Pokemon. Finally, we were able to do it with Nidoqueen because Nidoqueen has just awesome attacks, being able to use Body Slam. So we didn't need a stab move. All we needed was a move that could paralyze and damage our opponent in order to get through. So in total, now we've tested 31 Pokemon from Generation 1, and of those, 16 have been able to get through. Now, when we come back next time, we're going to be looking at more Pokemon, of course. And next time, let's see exactly which Pokemon we're going to be doing here. So, we've already finished Nidoqueen. We're going to be doing Nidoran, Nidorino, Nidoking, Clefairy, and Clefable. Now, Clefairy, I'm not sure it will be able to get through, given the fact that it's not going to really have a great moveset. It's only going to know Pound, from what I can remember. But Clefable is another one of those stone evolutions that might start off with a bunch of extra moves. Next, we get Vulpix and Ninetales, who I think are going to have a very good chance against Brock, given that they're going to have stab fire moves to be able to use. Those special type moves that can do damage and inflict status. Next, we're going to have Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff, who, again, might struggle, but Sing might be a legitimate strategy. And Wigglytuff, again, might start with some extra moves, being a stone evolution. After that, we get Zubat and Golbat. They are going to be very interesting, given that Leech Life will not be resisted and will heal them, and Brock doesn't have any Rock-type moves in this generation. Next, we're going to have Oddish, Gloom, and Vileplume to round out next week's episode. And I'm so excited to just one-shot Brock with Absorb. So that does it for today. Thank you all very much for joining. If you liked today's content, like, subscribe. If you have questions, comments, complaints about the strategy that we used today, put them down below. And we will see you very soon for episode 3, where we will be testing from Nidoran male up to Vileplume. Thank you very much. See ya.